crash, I kill it till love. This is love when I wanna get another one. I go take and do waiting I love, waiting you love. Oh, no be waiting I love. Oh, waiting I love. I go do what we love. I go no be vodka. Mr. Money Changer, but when I know the ways that Mr.
You let it yum 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 yum. Na yela pere, matina yela pese. You let it yum 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 yum. Na yela pere, muna kapela, chora kakisa, bayari yela pere, balungana bayre.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Political Justice. It's yet another Saturday afternoon, and I'm here with my usual guest to do justice to the main political issues that have emerged in our political space in Ghana in the course of the week. With me here this afternoon is Dr. Zita Seshi, a sociologist in Canada, Ni Okai, an assistant professor of actuarial science at Appalachian State University in North Carolina. Gentleman and lady, you're welcome.
Thank you. We have to get used to our new studio setup, but yeah. White background will make us look brighter. So good call.
Okay, all right. We're just playing with it to see what suits us best. But yes, so the main topics today are going to be the cancellation of the 4 hotels of SNIT to Rock City, whose sole shareholder is a member of parliament and the current minister for agriculture, food and agriculture. So we'll talk about that, the background to the cancellation of the impending sale, and then we'll move on to talk about President.
Is it just me?
Yeah, I was going to say,
Was that my video, right?
Yeah, you paused.
Okay, I paused. Okay. Maybe my internet is misbehaving. But yeah, and then we'll move on to talk about, the outdooring of the MPP's vice presidential candidate in the person of Matthew Opoku Prempeh and the matters that have arisen after his outdooring, comments that he has made that have fed people's, charge of arrogance. We'll talk about that as to whether it's going to stick or not, or is there any justification to describe him as such. So, yes, so these are the main topics, and then we'll go straight ahead to talk about the cancellation of the potential sale of the SNIT hotels to Rock City, right? yesterday, I think most of the information or the cancellation came yesterday, right? The statement was issued yesterday, informing us of the cancellation. But prior to that, organized labor had threatened to go on industrial action if SNIT didn't rescind the sale of the hotels. So I'm going to play a video here of some of the things that leaders of organized labor were saying prior to the cancellation or the announcement of the cancellation.
Oh, you see how your body looks fresh. At age 60, you see whether it will be like this. So we are talking about age 60 and beyond.
One of the hotels was not doing very well, Labadi Beach. Our members on the board moved and pushed for a committee to be formed. The committee worked, came out with recommendations, and that is why Labadi is now making profits. We are saying that take the rest of the hotel through that process.
There are certain situations you need to take impromptu decisions, and that's the decision that we've taken. That come Monday, every worker must sit in the house, including our trotro drivers. No transport. We all sit in the house.
Organized labor would like to reiterate its well-known position that the proposed sale of SNIT shares in the 4 hotels is not in the best interest of Ghanaian workers. We therefore demand that SNIT terminates the process immediately. From Monday, 15th of July 2024, all workers in Ghana must not go to work until SNIT publicly announces the termination of the process for the sale of its shares in the hotels.
Okay. So there were a number of labor organizations that came out yesterday to announce that they were going to go on demonstrations as a result of this action by the SNIT board. So the SNIT board decided to release a statement yesterday, basically announcing the discontinuation of the sale of the hotels. But maybe perhaps let's give a background to what's going on here. The MP for, is it South Tongue or North Tongue? Honorable Okujato. So is it North Tongue, right?
I think so. I'm not sure.
Okay, so but he's a member of the opposition NDC. I think he's a ranking member of Foreign Affairs. He initially made the public aware that SNIT was giving away or trying to divest 60% of its shares in 6 very prominent hotels in Ghana. And what actually blew the alarm was the fact that these hotels were being sold to a certain member of parliament who also happens to be the Minister for Food and Agriculture of the ruling government. And so questions of conflict of interest came up. And further information revealed that there may have been some insider information that the Minister for Food and Agriculture got by virtue of his position, which led to his company winning the bid to buy these hotels. In fact, with 2 of the hotels, his bid was exactly the same as the lower limit of the valuation of the hotel. And so it got people asking that how possible could it be that he would, propose a bid that happened to be at the lower limits of the valuation of the hotel. So, I mean, all kinds of, issues emerged that suggested that this was not a transparent process. And so organized labor began looking into it. And it emerged that Labadi Beach in particular was making profits. And if you compare the profits that the Labadi Beach alone was making to how much the hotels were going for, it didn't actually make sense. In fact, we did some of the analysis here, and it meant that from the profits of Labadi Beach alone, those hotels could be paid off in maybe a couple of years. So who gets such a deal whereby you take a loan to buy an asset, And then in 2 years, you can actually pay off the asset from the profits that you made within 2 years. So there were all kinds of red flags associated with this sale. And so, organized labor, who also happened to be the main beneficiaries of SNIT, said they weren't standing for this. They announced industrial action. The Ghana Medical Association, the Nurses and Midwifery Association, all kinds of labor bodies in Ghana decided that they were going on industrial action. And then SNIT released a statement saying that they were rescinding their decision to sell these hotels. And I will just go ahead and read the press release by SNIT that officially announced the discontinuation of the sale of these hotels. So it says discontinuation of sale of 60% stake in hotels. The board and management of Social Security and National Insurance Trust, SNIT, wish to inform the public that the process to divest 60% of SNIT stake in the hotels has been terminated. We wish to assure pensioners, contributors, and the public of our commitment to managing the affairs of the trust prudently for the sustainability of the pension scheme. Signed, Elizabeth Equia Ohene. Now, the interesting thing is that about a couple of weeks ago, Elizabeth Ohene wrote an article in the Daily Graphic basically justifying the action of the SNIT board to sell the hotels. But I think in this case, organized labor, the people who they hold those hotels in trust for, have acted, and as a result of that, she has essentially made an about turn from her initial position. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about this. What do you guys think? We talked a lot about this issue on this platform, and I think it's an opportunity for us to have a second stab at it. Maybe are we having the Kenya effect? Are we getting these results as a result of what has transpired in Kenya, such that our leaders feel that they are now obliged to listen to us?
Hey, Zita, you go first.
Okay, Zita, you can take your stop first, and then.
I wanted to say you should go because today you look brighter than usual.
Yeah, so guys, if you
wanna... than the usual, But anyway,
But anyway, let me welcome my friend Oreku Ampofo, who is a political scientist and a policy analyst based in Canada as well. So today we have a balance here: 2 people based in the United States and then 2 based in Canada. So we don't
have gender equity, and as we move on, gender equity is going to come up.
We will work towards that.
Yes, please work towards gender equity, because at this stage I'm beginning to feel this is a masculine space. So I need to have my own show where we, the women, banter and dissect the issues more critically. And I think you shouldn't be creeping visitors on us. We did not know that Oroku was joining us today, and all of a sudden we had somebody budging on us.
Oh, okay, that's my fault. I should have announced to you that he was making another appearance. But yes, so Zita, make your contribution, and then
Oroku, how you doing?
I'm good. Just have a wedding in 1.5 hours to go. So.
Oh wow, yeah.
Yeah. So I had used the old link. I thought it was a constant link.
I see.
So I was waiting, and I tested him, and he said, "No, use the new one or something."
Yeah.
So then I went back to
Okay. All right. We envy you. You attending a wedding. That's envious. Yeah. But anyway, let's get to it. So Zita, what's your take on what has happened?
Kenyan effect, I would say that is the issue here. Kenyan effect. It's just the ability of people to rally and mobilize, and I'm deeply impressed with the organized labor's initiative to boycott all sorts of activities by Monday if there is not a halt and a retraction. And we have seen that based on news reports that I have followed in the past 2 hours online, that the SNIT 60% of the stakes in these hotels, the sale have been halted and rescinded Assad now. Good move, but I don't know if we will have the opportunity to respond to this issue, but this also again emphasizes law changes or changes in law, and also not giving our government the power to be able to appoint the board members and managers of SNIT, because this is where the issue is coming from, because the government have the right to appoint board members and managers. They are the ones that are making these critical decisions on behalf of the pensioners. And so, yes, this is a win. The Kenyan effect is tripling, and I hope it doesn't just happen in Ghana, but the momentum builds across Africa. But this is not like the end of the victory. We want to see changes in the laws in Ghana, and also take away the executive's power to appoint board members and managers of SNIT, because clearly it has become partisan and political, such that the people who are appointed on the board and managing SNIT are not operating in the best interest of the ordinary person who is working. So yeah, pretty much happy with the results, but we have to credit the organized labor for their insistence and their ability to mobilize and threaten to create a total shutdown by Monday if things are not changed and stopped immediately. So kudos to them. And of course, kudos to Okudzeto Ablakwa for mounting momentum, for going out there and protesting and making sure that the MPP's greed and their incessant desire for state capture have been halted. Like I say, after the December election, we are going to have more insights, because if this was not brought out, what other states' assets have been captured? That is what I am interested in knowing. So this is my submission.
So Ni, let me, based on what Zita has said, let me go to Oreko on this, because we've had conversations along similar lines, and it's with respect to how the board is constituted. And I have always been on the opinion that Ghana is not properly founded, and that some of the justificatory arguments that went into the formation of, or sort of structuring the way things work in Ghana, don't exist, and that we literally put pieces together without justifying them. Because if you look at the appointment of board members in Ghana and the manner in which it is done, it makes you wonder if it, by its very structure, it can ensure the accountability that we are expected of those boards. So again, look at what transpired with this sale. We know the leading figures of the SNIT board, they were largely members of the ruling party. And the accusation here was that they were trying to sell the hotel to one of their kind. So, I mean, Oreko, if you want to take it from that structural approach and then also to the very particular case that we are talking about right now.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me to join this discussion. Can you all hear me? Anytime I hear some of these things, I'm not shocked, because some of us, we follow the politics for a very long time, and you and I have had a lot of deep discussions, despite the fact that we have different persuasions and different leanings at times. We agree on a whole lot of things. And one thing we agree on is that there are a lot of things that we do in our country that we do it. It's not that we don't understand, but we do it because of our parochial calculations. And that has plagued our politics for a very long time. And when we are even chastising or criticizing, the current crop are criticizing because they want to come to office, and when they come to office, they're going to do the same thing. And that is what is sad. It just happened that when you're in opposition in Ghana, you have a lot of ideas and you are very good. I mean, just recently, there was an MPP minister who, I think 8 years ago, was crying on national television. I forgot his name. And was crying on national television for people not thinking about the country. And now he's even doing well. So it's just the way we have structured our country and the way we have been doing things. And because we've also made the people very poor, the plunder and the rent seeking and kind of the patronage has become part of our politics, that it becomes difficult to now disentangle it, because These MPs steal at the same time they use it on the people, because the people have lined up on them every day and they're paying their school fees, they're paying. So this is part of the entire corruption. But if you put that aside, nobody should tell you that a minister who has influence bidding for a state, how do you call it, a state property in itself is problematic. It has a whole conflict of interest spelled all over the place. And this is what has been happening since 1992 in our country. It's just keep going on over and over when it comes to land capture. It cut across from 1992 to now. I remember Jake, somebody who had everything, was still on his sickbed, was still fighting over land. A land that was cleared in the hands of the state. And the same, it goes through. Recently, I think when MPP was in office, they published a paper or a document which shows the previous administration in NDC who had state land and state houses all in their name. It was a lot. When the NDC came to office, they captured the same thing. The critical question is why none of them are doing something to change the laws and change the structure of the structure that keep perpetuating that evil. Because the fact of the matter is that if NDC is to come to office next year, this same structure and laws will be there. And there will not be any same momentum by Okudzeto Abrakwa to change it. And I don't think they're going to change it.
Well, Okudzeto has proposed a bill.
I know. But Agana, once it comes there, that Senate job, that Senate board is part of the political largesse that will be given for the people who fought for the NDC to come to office.
So it's more of a structural problem, because I feel like corruption to some extent is built into the system in Ghana.
Yeah.
Say that in some cases you're tempted to think that it's deliberate.
So with time, corruption, last time we talked about it. So corruption with time becomes part and parcel of your country. The way we approach corruption in Ghana is wrong, because we think that it's law. Corruption is legal, corruption is criminal. You cannot use law to cure an endemic corruption. You don't even need evidence to cure an endemic corruption. Once there's a perception, you cure it. You don't wait for ANAS to go underground and come and show you that, hey, there is corruption at DVLA. No. You have to make it in such a way that people will not get the opportunity to even be corrupt. Because when you have a lot of people, all politicians basically are engaged in it. The media is engaged in it. All the citizens are engaged in it. The only person who cannot have the ability to steal is the person. The only person who don't steal is the person who doesn't have the ability to steal. You don't cure that with special prosecutor. And from day one, some of us criticize Akufo-Addo's special prosecutor idea. Because how many years would it take for the special prosecutor to even prosecute one case? Even if the special prosecutor has good intention, it will take him 6 years to prosecute one criminal case. Mm-hmm. And then we have a whole lot. But at the same time, too, once it becomes structural, everybody as human beings want to take advantage of it. So these politicians are doing that, knowing very well that once upon a time, when they look through the books, somebody was bidding for Chimota Forest. Once upon a time, somebody took some of the countrymen's land and nothing was done to it. So why can't I also try and grab a hotel? So we have our political leanings, and thank God today you guys changed the background from the green colors, which was pure NDC, to something which is Ghana. So we are all moving a little bit at the center of our political discussion. So thank God I have been able to advocate for some change. I hope so.
Well, look, the previous background wasn't deliberate. We were just
okay, but I was too green. It was so green that you don't have to know Ghana politics to know that they're supporting.
If I may ask, is green not in the national colors of Ghana?
Oh, green is
red, gold, green.
Green and red.
But anyway, let's not let Oregon lose his
really? Well, no, but basically all what I'm trying to say is that that is kind of the state we've been plunged into. We have engaged in some of these politics for a very long time that at times we have accepted it to be normal. And all the people following these political parties are just there to come to office and enrich themselves. And that's why I think it's going to be hard for even when the NDC comes to office to change some of these structures, because the people following them have already started distributing the positions. So when they come to office and they say you are going to take it from them, it's going to be hard. But it will take courage for somebody to do that. And that's why maybe Akufo-Addo is not doing well and is failing, because he doesn't have the courage to to do some of these things.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, Akufo doesn't have the courage. So, but let's go back to the specific issue here.
Yeah, but again, if you give me one opportunity,
Oh yeah, definitely. Yes.
I agree almost with everything our brother Oriko said, except the background. I have a quick question for him. So I just want to know from his point of view, what do you think needs to be done, to kind of cure this corruption? Again, if you allow me with this one.
Yeah, definitely. Yes. In fact, I had that question, but but it's good you asked.
I mean, it's for me, it's a hard one. I mean, Agana and I have had extensive talk. I think we need, and I choose my words carefully. We need a little bit of a social revival or social revolution. Agana thinks we need political revolution, but I disagree. I think we need social revolution. Social revolution that can change the entirety of our way of doing things and change the politics at the same time, because we've all accepted the corruption. I mean, there's a guy. Can you go back, please? There's a guy in my hometown who he now with the MPP he has gained a lot of political gravitas. He's helping a lot of people to get scholarship, which on the surface is good. We are all hailing him, but that is the corruption. That is the corruption we're talking about. And to me, can you guys go back a little bit? For me, these are some of the issues that we have to deal with when we're talking about some of these things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
your boys want to be part of the show, but okay. So yes.
I like it when I'm on phone or I'm on TV or something. They were not worrying me until I came here. Then they started to come in. I will change my. I will go to the basement and lock myself. Okay, they'll give me some.
Okay. All right. So yeah. So yes. So your take on this matter, but I'll come back to yes.
As I said, I agree with everything Oroko said, and also with Zita. But yesterday I really was a proud Ghanaian. I posted it on Twitter. I like that we caught a code from Kenya, and now it looks like we are trying to take our country back from these corrupt politicians. I don't care which party is in power. All we need is for them to minimize the corruption as much as possible and try to have the Ghanaian interest at heart. Until we do that, the money meant for education, the funds meant for health will go into people's pocket, and that will only serve themselves and their families. So if Ghanaians we are serious people, we should hold them accountable. Even if it's not your party that's in power or it's your party that's in power, you have to make sure we have the same voice and they are doing the right thing, because they've realized that the Ghanaians are not, the politicians know that if MPP is in power, people that support them will not criticize them, and that's what they are taking advantage of that. If you listen to this snit thing, for me, it's a straightforward case of corruption, right? The conflict of interest and all of that in one pot. You look at it, you be like, this is not right. The argument is that Snakes is losing money, but I'm like, really, these are hotels that are in prime locations in the country. I know one of the one in Cape Coast. We had programs when I was in the university. We had programs. It was a nice hotel, nice location, because this hotel were built a long time ago, and they have the name. So I'm like, a businessman is buying this hotel, right? I trying to tell me that businessman don't think this thing we can turn this thing around. What is going on is just about poor management. We have politicians put people who are not qualified to be in this position, and they run their state assets down, and now they attempt to sell it and try and get it cheap, and that is the problem. They've done it over and over again, and we need as a people to tell them they should put a stop to that. So I was very happy with that, and I hope it continues. But we need we need to go a step further from where we are right now to require that these people that made the decision, this poor decision, to one, sell these hotels and that I'm talking about the board of the Senate, the board of that NPRA. That woman, you just read the letter. She was defending it. That woman should go. The entire board should go, and we need to make sure people, pay for this, because this is corruption. And the annoying thing is, you got a politician whose bid was accepted, and that is not right. If the fact that NDC have done it or did it in the past, took state assets or previous MPP government, that don't mean that this government should continue. But of course, they take Ghanaians for for not being smart, and they continue doing what they are doing. I'm very happy that organized labor stepped in when they did, but I feel they can do more. If these people have this much power, I don't know why they sat down for policies like the e-levy and other nuisance taxes like the COVID levy. They sat there for them to pass it. They should try and help the working class Ghanaian. We all saw the reports that poverty in Ghana has increased, and these are things that these labor unions can fight to help Ghanaians. So I'm very happy that they've called the SNET, said they've terminated the process, and at least they should go back to the drawing board. The solution is getting the right people in there, or you can get a management company just to do the management. Make sure people know their jobs and they are doing their jobs. They have KPIs. If you are not meeting them, you go away. And that's what it should be. Not politicians grabbing state assets at cheap and keeping it for their families.
And I think you are muted. You are muted.
So I was asking if you had something to say, but
I think for me, my from my understanding of the way we manage things in Ghana, I really don't like governments managing things like these things. So it can be, I don't know the facts, it can be that it's not making money, but doesn't mean you sell it to a politician.
Yeah.
That for me, that's where the anger I'm coming from.
Yeah.
But for me, government managing these things, the kind of politics we have in our country and the kind of poverty levels and the heritage, the political legacies, I would never encourage any government to manage some of these things, because it becomes part of the political spoils when a government comes to office.
Yeah.
And they will distribute it.
Yeah.
And when somebody gets in there, his goal is not to revamp it. His goal is to make money.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. And I mean, Azita, look, we actually learned that Freddie Blaze's son proposed a bid. He bid at more than Rock City. I mean, it was some ridiculous amount of money, about $200 million or something like that. And it turned out that his bid was denied, and the bid was given to the hotels, where rather the intention was to give them to Rock City for, I think, about 60 million or so. Right. But I think the problems with Ghana are very structural. And unless we go back to the drawing board, to the very fundamental principles of putting a state together, it might be difficult for us to solve some of these problems. And I think we have to applaud Okudzato Ablakwa too, because he has been on this crusade for a very long time. Look, some people may say he's doing it for political reasons, and it's because his party is not in power, and it's essentially to project his own, future politics, or to put himself as a crusader for accountability in order to, bring some political benefit to himself. But I think that is one of the essential reasons for politics. Politics is said that by pursuing your personal interest as a politician, you are actually helping the entire system function properly by being a check on somebody who is your political opponent. And so if we thought about the structures of the state in this manner, that the idea of checks and balances, sometimes you have to use personal or private interests to check another person's power, if we conceive of it in this very complex way, and that's what most of the Western countries have done, that sometimes they structure a system in a way that a personal interest can be a check on another person's avarice in a way that it will neutralize the system. And so we have to envision our state in this context. And irrespective of Okudjato's interest in this, what transpired with respect to the sale of these hotels and the results that we achieved is the way it's supposed to work. That's the way checks and balances are supposed to work.
Yeah, and that is his job. Yeah. So I don't think it's debatable. That
exactly.
So yes. His job as an opposition.
Yeah, exactly. That's how it's supposed to work.
And he's been paid to do that.
We don't expect angels to run our country. So we expect people's personal interest to check other personal interests that will bring the system to harmony. Right.
And when NDC comes to power, we need people also in MPP to do similar.
Yes.
Yeah, right. So that we hold them accountable. And that the development and the well-being of Ghanaians is all we want. I don't care who is doing the policing, right? It has to be done because it's in the human nature is that we will try to be smart, to be selfish, and that's it. And that's why I agree that our constitution, certain things need to change. But even before that, we still have, institutions that are supposed to take care of these things, but they're just not doing that, and that's our problem, right?
Yeah, but Oreku also talked about, like, besides the legal aspects of things, but do we have the culture of accountability in our system? And I always say we developed democracy in Ghana without the spirit. Say that we overly rely on law, but we forget the overall objective, the overall goal of the system that we put in place. If we conceive of it in terms of the overall goal, we are going to inject the spirit into the system so that you don't have a politician or a member of parliament sitting on TV saying that, the corporation is different from the person, and that Rock City as a corporation is a different entity, and it's a whole person different from the 100% shareholder who is the politician, right? If we actually think about our democratic practice in terms of the spirit, the end goal, then somebody is not going to sit on somebody who is being entrusted with sitting on guard for the state would not go on TV and say things like this. So I always say the spirit is lacking because all of the time they would bring up the law and says once it's not legal, then it must be right, which is very unfortunate.
For me, lack of accountability is a cultural problem. We have two main cultural tendencies in Ghana that I feel fits into this. First one is our cultural, behavior of not talking back to our elders, and it's in our education, right? It's in our education. You cannot talk back. You cannot do that. Our elders even try to, if you are somebody who speaks up, they try to make sure you are put in check. So we grow up with that, right? You cannot talk back to your parents. You cannot talk back to your elders, even when they are doing the wrong thing. You cannot speak back, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is that we have that our behavior of saying in Ghana we say aneya and tree was a maninko. That thing, those two things I feel. If I'm those two things I feel.
Inshallah.
Yes, and for me, when I see any student,
but what about Ewe? You are speaking. What about
you are there? Add it to it.
Yeah.
You are there. Add it to it.
No, Zita, I'm not good at Ewe.
But Zita, you are there. That's why you are there.
What's the Ewe one for that?
I refuse to comment.
I beg, help me. I don't know.
She doesn't know.
Zita, help me. What's the Ewe for Jamaninka? What's the Ewe one?
Kwenamau.
Yeah. So like that is our kind of the way we are brought up. But I wanted to say that for the not speaking up part, it's actually feeds into the student. And that's why for me as a professor, when I see students who come to US and you're Ghanaian and I know that you are here fresh, the first thing I tell you, speak up. Because Ghanaian students usually they are timid, they don't want to. I'm like, speak up. Make sure you fight that thing. Because here intelligence is associated with the amount you speak up. When you're in company meetings, you have to let your presence be known. When you're in meetings, even though it's industry, you have to speak up. So because of that behavior, I feel it affects the way we approach accountability, that's how I feel. I don't know how we solve such a cultural problem. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So let's move on. And our next topic has to do with President Mahama's encounter with the media. About I think a week ago, um, you know, Mahama took the innovative strategy of making himself available to the media. I think it's an unprecedented event. I don't remember any political or any candidate that has availed himself in such an open manner to the media to devour. And in my opinion, he did a pretty good job. So we would listen to his sort of introductory comments and some of the things that he said. And I'm sure many of you have watched the clip. Maybe if you didn't watch the show live, you may have gone back to the replay, and I sent it to most of you. And so if there are things that caught your eye that you want to highlight, we can do that. But I certainly have some issues that I would want us to delve into. But before then, let's just hear his introductory comments, and then we get into the issues.
You are the vehicle that we have to use to send our message out to the people. So I'm very happy that you responded to our call at relatively short notice. And I say good evening to you, all my colleagues in the field of media and communications, and to you, the millions watching and listening from across our country and the world at large. We are at a crucial moment in our nation's history with 153 days to the next presidential and parliamentary elections. 2 years ago in 2022, right here in this same auditorium, in my prophetic address to the nation, I submitted to the government and to all Ghanaians that Ghana was at a crossroads. That speech has been called the crossroads speech. Unfortunately, the government refused to listen to that altruistic conversation and the raft of viable and innovative policy proposals that I offered to them that evening. 2 years on, our country is in the worst state. In between the period, I have been having a series of innovative conversations with you, conversations that do not talk down or talk at Ghanaians, truthful and honest, continuous conversation that admit that our nation is in peril because Ghanaians have victory in our DNA. I know that despite these perils, we can overcome our difficulties. Let me thank you for your presence this evening for my first major media encounter ahead of the December 2024 elections. In addition to my digital conversations, I intend to have a number of such media engagements, not only in Accra, but in other parts of the country. As I have done when I was president, I passionately believe in transparency and accountability and engagements with the fourth estate of the Rim. These have always been an effective way to reach our citizenry. And this is why I'm happy today to be with you again to sustain the conversations about our dear nation, Ghana. And do not worry, the media encounters and my virtual engagements will not deny you the opportunity to catch me for one-on-one interviews, either in your studios or whenever we meet at events. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the time for change. The time for change has come. And it is not just a slogan, but a clarion call to the heart and soul of our nation. This is a time for change because of the urgent need for a transformative shift in the way we govern, the way we create jobs, the way we live, the way we provide social services, including health and education, and the way we envision the future of our dear country, Ghana. After almost 8 years under the deplorable leadership of the Akufo-Addo and Bawumia administration, we have seen our country sink into a serious economic abyss. The current economic mess sums up the verdict on this MPP administration. The harsh reality is that for most citizens, the piteous journey over the period has been a very bitter experience of economic and social deprivation. The unprecedented levels of poverty, unemployment, deterioration in our people's livelihoods, and social inequity have exposed the dubious strategy of hiding incompetence under sloganeering. It confirms without hesitation that the disruptive and hasty experimentation with the lives of the Ghanaian people was underpinned by a naive exuberance, arrogance, and indeed selfishness. And I'm referring to the economic challenges that have shattered the dreams of our youth and the aspirations of the vulnerable in our society. No one has been spared, not children, not adults, including the middle class and the elderly have all been hit very hard. And I dare say, even you, the media, have not been spared. Fellow Ghanaians, and that's a very famous refrain, fellow Ghanaians, notwithstanding these challenges, I'm imbued with the optimism and a steadfast belief in my God Almighty and the amazing creativity of the Ghanaian people to assure you tonight that together we shall turn around this tide.
Okay. All right. So I want us to end here. And if you listen to the entire speech and the responses he gave to the questions that were asked by the media, I would say he was very eloquent in his delivery. But he went on to talk about, maybe I'll just mention some of the issues he went on to talk about gender equality. He reiterated the running mate's promise of a women's development bank. He went on to talk about the 24-hour economy and how it is expected to address some of the unemployment issues related to the young people of our country. He delved into the sports industry. He talked about, building equity in sports in the sense that all the other types of sports would be treated with the same level of regard as the Black Stars, right? Last time we talked about the manner in which the disability team that went and won the AFCON in Egypt were maltreated by the current government, especially the disparaging manner in which the current Minister for Youth and Sports spoke to them, dressed them down in front of the media. And so Mohamed's promise of treating all sports teams in Ghana equitably is something that we should welcome. And then he talked about reviving the Premier League in Ghana. We know that league has been dead for so many decades now. And he talked about reviving it, and he proposed maybe giving the players a stipend, and hopefully that would energize the league and let it become self-sustaining in the long run. But so I'll open it up to you guys. If there was anything that caught your eye, I think Zita might be excited about the gender equity bit of his speech and his promise of the Women's Development Bank. So I would give you the lead in this conversation.
Sure. And yes, of course. I mean, that is already through his selection of a female vice presidential candidate. So he talked about that. He talked about education reform and tied that to gender equity. And for me, I'm hoping to see those policies manifest. Like I said, if you look at the Ghana, the census, the Ghana Living Standard Survey, you look at the recent report I looked at, which was 2021, more women are income contributing members compared to men. More men are educated in Ghana and work in the formal sector, but more women are income contributing family members, even though they work in the informal sector. So for me, a national women's bank is in the right direction because it does align with the existing data that women are income contributing family members compared to men, even though men have the education. And so empowering women will translate into the home and to a large extent support the children. So that is a good policy. I mean, I wrote a lot down. And I also like the fact that he leaned on in terms of agriculture and focusing on the primary sector, because he believes that if agriculture becomes the base of Ghana's economy, it will reduce importation, and by reducing importation, to a large extent, the economy, it will have like a level of positive impact on the economy, because per the MPP members who were crying that the exchange rate is a ritual problem because of importation. We are heavily reliant on importation. So hopefully his leaning on an agro-centered economy would really help how Ghana navigates in terms of crippling the economy. I liked his take on digitalization. He said 1 million coding, 1 million people will learn coding. It's an interesting take. I'm going to hold him up to it if that would work. But again, closing the digital divide is important. But in as much as those things are important, as somebody who sleeps and eats on social media, I believe that, and I'm not saying we should regulate, but I believe education needs to happen when it comes to people's access to digital devices and the internet. In the past week, there has been issue on social media with young girls posting very demoralizing content demoralizing content, and these are very, very young girls, 13, 15, talking about sexual activity in Ghana. And so I am happy with the things he talked about. I'm particularly happy about the fact that he's not going to keep this engagement in Accra, but of course in other parts of Ghana. So I'll follow and see what the discussions are and the key questions that other media professionals in other parts of Ghana are asking. Overall, good move, bold move. Some of the
besides, we hear these types of promises all over the place, or I will do this, I will do that. But being somebody who is passionate about gender issues, what do you think would be the barrier to achieving some of these, gender equity goals that he seeks to achieve? Is there anything particular about Ghana or the manner in which we practice politics in Ghana that may be a hindrance, say that the government would have to surmount to be able to achieve these things? I mean, if there are some peculiarities that you observe that you feel like, okay, these are going to be hindrances, and how are we going to be able to get over them?
The biggest hindrance is culture. The Ghanaian culture and the African culture, like say, it is highly patriarchal and sexist. Women are not seen as leaders. I have had a lot of men who don't come close to my credentials debase me simply because, you're a woman. And we see it in Ghana's politics.
So how do we address it? Is it education? I mean, is it something perhaps, because I mean, if you were going to be an advisor to perhaps the president or the running mate, how do you go about addressing some of these structural or things that we may refer to as wicked problems, just because of the fact that they are so ingrained in our system that it might take a lot to deal with them? How do we approach it?
I would say just affirmative action and appointing. It gets to a point where we cannot allow women to compete in a healthy way for political positions, because a lot of Ghanaian women might not have the mental tenacity to withstand all the level of insult and abuse in our political system. We have 275 seats in parliament. Only 40 women occupy. We are nowhere near gender equity. Ghana talks about gender equity, but they are nowhere near. So I do understand, but I feel like Mohammed's biggest problem when it comes to gender inclusive policies is it's about cultural change, and that I don't believe will happen in my lifetime. It's about cultural change where the culture is very receptive. And as we have this session every week, I hope now that the MPP have named their vice president, who is a male, the discourse is now moving towards gender. A female vice president. They went to the ordinary Ghanaian to ask, and it's just sad to listen to the comments. Nobody was talking about her education, her competency. She's a woman. This is Africa. Women don't lead, and I don't know where they get that from. So I would say that it would take Muhammad to just make these executive decisions of appointing competent women. And again, we understand that as women, when we are put in positions, and we mess up, we taint it for the next generation of women. Men don't have the burden of that they need to live up to. We have the burden of that. So to vet thoroughly and then make some of these critical executive positions, because if we're going to say, oh, compete, oh, you're a woman, you want to enter parliament, compete. Not a lot of Ghanaian women have the mental strength and the tenacity to stand against the high level of sexism and patriarchal rhetorics and doctrines we have. So I would say an executive appointment, because the parliament doesn't look good. You have 275 and only 40 are women. Ghana's policies are basically paternalistic and patriarchal, because you can't make decisions for women when you don't have the lived experiences of women. And to land my ship, like I always say, patriarchy is a system, just like racism is a system. So being a woman is a lived experience. Until you live in the body of a woman and the things we have to endure as women in this society, you might not understand. Mahama can empathize with us, but he will never understand what it means. Professor Jane is more positioned to understand what it means to be a woman and living in a Ghanaian society. So we appreciate the allyship of men, but we need to understand that just like racism, patriarchy is a system that is built to favor men. And so if we want to dismantle it, we need to account for lived experiences.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. I think Mahama is already walking the talk by his selection of Professor Jane, and hopefully they will listen to you and take some of the recommendation by increasing the number of executive appointees in their government, just to demonstrate that women are capable as well, right?
I hope so. And to land my ship, he talked about lean government. I don't know if we'll come back.
Lean government. Okay.
But yeah, I will let
okay, we will specifically address lean government, whether it's realistic or not. But I'll give Oreku the mic here. What are your overall impressions?
I don't know where to take it from, but I will leave the test comment as it is, because there are a lot of fallacies in that standpoint epistemology, which is, for me,
okay.
You don't need to be in a standpoint epistemological condition in order to propose policies and programs, because standpoint is one way of knowing, but the fact that a woman knows her condition doesn't mean that that woman has the capacity to develop policies and programs. The fact that I know my racial condition doesn't mean that I have the same intellectual capacity to propose policies and programs.
But that's why she said competent women. So I think that
I know.
He did not listen. He's listening to rebuttal. He's listening to rebuttal.
Because I mean, there are women who are competent policy-wise, but also have the lived experience of being a woman. Say that if you were to put them in such a position, they would be more competent, so to speak, than a man who is intellectually as competent.
I get it.
I guess it does it. Yeah.
No. But what I'm saying is that the whole standpoint, epistemology, glorification, that lived experience is one thing.
Yes.
And having knowledge on other issues is another thing. And there are different ways of knowing which lived experience is only one of them. But let me.
But if you want to be very scholarly,
I don't want to dwell on that, because that's kind of.
Somebody says that there's this paper that I read about the Salvetan. Can the Salvetan speak? And the opinion is that the Salvetan cannot be spoken for.
Agana, the fact is, if a woman has been oppressed for a very long time, that woman can internalize patriarchy and patriarchal policies.
Definitely.
I was in a church, I don't want to mention the name of the church, where the issue of empowering women to become church elders came to fore. The majority of the people that spoke against it were women. That's what I'm talking about. So those women have the lived experience that Zita is talking about. And if we base lived experience, then we all have to be quiet and stop advocating, because most of them are saying we don't want to be elders of the church. So that's what I'm saying. So that lived experience argument at times, there's a extent to which it can take you. But what I'm trying to say is that if a woman is oppressed for a very long time and internalize that oppression, at times they accept it as a normal order, and their lived experience is accepted, and they cope and they live with it. But that is
the Queen Mother syndrome. We understand, yes.
But what I think Mahama is basically talking about, and I listened to him, he spoke well, like you said. he made good case for himself. I like the question you followed up. We've heard this over and over and over and over. And we've heard that. And if you check NDC's manifesto from 1996, when some of us started following politics, there are a lot of similarities in what Mahama is saying. And most Ghanaians, we know that. And I think one thing Mahama talked about, which is great if he's able to do it, is to reduce our reliance on imports. And those ones have been said over and over, was said by Thomas, was said by John Kufuor, was said by all of them. So all the things, and if you look at Ghana, if we are going into the political era, and you look at our policies that we give out, both parties, they're very similar. They are really very similar, except recently that we have one bite kind of policies where 1 district, 1 million, whatever. That kind of now. But if you go to their manifestos, they are very similar. They are all talking about poverty, basically. They are all talking about reducing imports. They are all talking about industrialization. They are all talking about structural transformation in most cases. So Mahama has very good intentions. I think if he gets the nod, he would like to do that. But I've been following this political game for a very long time to know that he'll be able to achieve little about it. And one thing he talked to me, he said, which was shocking, was government finding ways of supporting the local league by paying salaries. I think even if government can pay salaries, it's going to be very small, that it will not in a way be able to revamp the local league. The way to revamp the local league requires different dynamics and different.
Well, I can't say that yet. This nam, right? So
yeah. But
the way I conceived it was that maybe it is a way of injecting some sort of activity into the league, right? You can start off by, paying stipends, but the hope is that down the line it's going to self-sustain and perhaps maybe it needs further development. Yeah. And I agree with you that to some extent, suggesting that you're going to pay league players, it cannot.
How much? No. He can pay. He's the president and he has resources. He can pay. But think about it. How much can a government pay players in order to inject that enthusiasm we are looking for from our local league? So that is, by the way, how much can the public purse pay athletes? And that's why some countries don't even pay their Olympic athletes, because it's really impossible. You can't do that. It's hard. That's why some countries, big as it is, they don't pay their even Olympic athletes. They don't pay them.
Yeah, the reason is because most of the Olympic athletes in these advanced countries are already high-earning athletes. So, for instance, Serena Williams goes to the Olympics. How much are you going to pay her to really be an enticement for her to perform?
Oh, but some of them too don't make anything. Some of them really don't. Some of them.
Yeah, but I'm just.
Their argument is that they are investing in infrastructure.
No, I get it.
They're investing. They're giving scholarships. Yes. So you use that, train, get experience, and use that to make your own money. Yeah. But we are not going to pay you because it's hard. How much can you pay them? And that is why when Akufo-Addo brought the free education, you and I remember, when he brought that idea, I said, it's a great idea. It's really great idea. But to think of a government thinking that they're going to pay kids, every Ghanaian kids, give them food morning, afternoon, and evening, you will not be able to do that. You cannot sustain it. You cannot. And if you force yourself to do that, you will lack the ability to do other things. Okay. And that is what is happening. You cannot feed people morning, afternoon, and evening.
Yeah, you make an interesting point.
What I'm trying to say is that Mahama has noble ideas. He articulated himself well. His policies and programs are similar to previous NDC's administration and what they said. It's similar to other parties and what they say. The fact of the matter is that we have a deep structural issues in our country. We have not been able to tackle it head on. And when you talk about the culture, I was thinking about the civic culture, political culture that we have developed, not necessarily our popular
culture. Yes, no, that's
civic democratic culture, the way we understand our civic engagement, the way we articulate our civic engagement, and the way we negotiate our civic engagement is in itself inimical to development. And with time, we have structured that our civic understanding as part of our institutional system
Exactly.
in a way that is not helping us in any way. So they have good ideas,
Yeah.
all our political parties, and Mahama articulated very well. Like the Women's Bank that he is thinking of developing. I mean, it's a good idea. I don't know the formula. I don't know how it's going to work out, but it's a good idea if he's able to develop that. Another flip side is that Ghana, we might not even have to develop a women's bank. We can go in alliance with our state existing banks and say, hey, we want affirmative action on women. We want you to stimulate women entrepreneurs. We want you to give them certain loans in a way. You don't necessarily even have to establish a whole bank. I'm always worried when government want to establish federal bureaucracy. I'm always worried about it because of the way it turns out. It turns out in our country. I'm always worried about it. But the idea is good. I'm hoping he'll be able to do it. I'm cynical, I doubt, because a very structure that always produces disappointing governments is still there.
Okay. All right, Zita, make a note about the bank, because I remember I made a similar comment about the formation of the bank and you pushed back. And as far as I can remember, it was a very reasonable position that you took, very convincing. So you make that note, and I'll go to Nee, and perhaps if you're interested in countering the assertion that the Women's Development Bank may not be necessary and that we can use the existing banks to facilitate the entrepreneurial, endeavors of women. But Nee, if you can take a bite on what you observed from the encounter and any highlights for you.
Yeah.
So now you see the kids are gone once I stop.
Stop talking.
I stop talking, they're gone. Once I start speaking, they'll come.
All right, yeah.
Yeah. So after the Mohammed's encounter with the media, I'm saying that voting against Baumia should be a civic duty.
Okay.
Because we realize that the voting that we did for NPP for this last 2 elections, it has been in vain. They lied, they did all they can, and painted this man as the bad person, the incompetent guy. But looking at everything, all indicators, even the ones you cannot calculate, they've performed worse. And for me, after I listened to him, you realize that this guy knows his stuff. It was a demonstration of a comprehensive, you know, past and future policies. This guy just knows his stuff, and I really like that part of him. That he's somebody I know, he knows what he's doing, and for some reason we let ourselves down as Ghanaians by believing the lies that were told about him. And as he said, they put a lot of corruption things around his neck, but they've never proved one in the law court. So that shows how bad we treated that man. His policies were clear. I know some of you have mentioned all that, the 24-hour economy, the Women's Bank, and also insisting that he actually started the free SHS for the day people. And it's actually what he said is actually in official government statement in the how do they call it, state of the nation addresses. It is there. So MPP cannot dispute the fact that he actually started the implementation in the 2016 year. So 5 words that came into mind: it was open, he was very honest, and it was very thorough. He was fair, and also I like that it was the answering of the question and the question were all it was kind of unscripted. It's not like Napo that they are telling him they have to write speeches for Napo because he's a loose cannon. And I appreciate all the journalists for their questions. But 2 main things that I thought Mama said that to me personally, I felt they were important. First one, he said that the NDC will protect the ballot, and I feel that if NDC can do something this year, it's making sure the police, the EC and the ballot, because MPP has said they will beat NDC with a simple strategy, and we all know what that means. They shouldn't allow these guys to use dirty politics and stealing to win this election. And the second one is he made a statement, and I tweeted about that. He said, "If you think that I was imbued with the father for all syndrome, I have been exercised," which means that he's coming from for the corrupt guys. And some people are going to vote for him to come and hold this government responsible because we feel accountable, because we feel this government has been irresponsible with some of their actions and inactions.
Okay. All right. Okay, Zita, did you have anything to add, or we can?
I mean, I don't have anything to add. It seems that active listening is a problem here. You can know everything, you can read everything about women, but you cannot make decisions for women in terms of, your knowledge. And so for a colleague to call it a fallacy, I'll let it slide. It's inconsequential. I mean, at the end of the day, I mentioned competency, and we are speaking in the context of political office. So that alone, it's not like you're going to the street and pick an ordinary woman who's never been anywhere near. Even that is important. Even that level of engagement is important to understand the lived experiences, because I come from a certain social background. I went to a private school, and so I'm privileged to a large extent. And so even my lived experiences would not be anywhere close to the lived experiences of the average Ghanaian lady who did not go to a private school and have access to the things that I have access to. It. And that boils down to intersectionality. With the Women's Bank, again, it's an initiative that was mentioned by Professor Nana Jane. It's in her outdooring speech. And that points to what I'm saying, that, you have to put competent women in the position to be able to make such decisions, because she does understand that women are income contributing earners and compared to men. In Ghana, you look at across sectors, everybody should refer to the Ghana Living Standard Survey. Across all parameters, even in the agriculture sector, women contribute more income to the home than men, even though men have the higher education and work in formal spaces or formal institutions in Ghana. And so, like I said the other time, Professor Nana's Gene initiative is in line with the policy, the existing data. And so for me, it's a good initiative that we create something or carve something specifically for women. And she's a woman, and she did come up with that in her outdooring speech. I don't know if we're going to look at the lean government, but yes. Mahama said 60. I don't know if the 60 includes both ministers and deputy, because I was just looking at I was just trying to find ministers for MPP. They recorded the highest level with 110, 60 ministers and then 50 deputies. And then as of 2024, based on CT News, Nanado swears in 24 new ministers and deputy ministers. So that is a bit high. If he's going to make it 60 and the 60 includes the ministers and the deputy, that's going to be, like he said.
Yes, that's what he said. He said wow. He said both substantive ministers and their deputies are going to come up to 60. Yeah.
That is going to be, like he said, first in history, highly impressive. We're going to see how he's going to manage the country with a very lean, government with only 60 ministers and deputies to cut down expenditure, ensure that money is going where it's supposed to go to. So interesting times ahead. You said that you were happy this week because of what the move by the organized labor, and that made you proud to be Ghanaian. I am happy, at least between you and I, you are very proud and happy to be Ghanaian. I reserve my Ghana card until further notice. So thank you for giving me the opportunity. I mean, I'm happy that Professor Nana Jane has been selected. She has the lived experiences of a woman, and she has demonstrated it in terms of initiating, the Women's Bank idea. And I stand by it that being a woman is a lived experience, and so lived experience should account for it. You don't walk, you don't live, you don't breathe in the body of a woman. You can know all the theories about women, but that doesn't mean that you are competent enough to make decisions on behalf of women. So I'm glad that a competent, educated woman who has the lived experience is on board. And I believe that if the NDC win, in as much as I don't believe the culture of sexism and patriarchy will reduce in Ghana, at least it will move us forward for the next generation and things will be better.
Okay. All right. One thing I realize is that when these days, when you engage in a conversation with MPP folks, they like to go into the generalization arguments and the similarities between the two governments. But Rico, I want us to talk about the question of the lean government. Does an incoming Mahama administration have the will, or is our political structure, again, we'll go back to the structure, say that it's going to be highly impossible for a president to basically cut the ministers into half, because from previous ministers, there were about 100 and something. And so having 50 ministers is about cutting them into half.
I mean, I think if he wants to do 60, I think he can do 60.
Okay.
I will not doubt that. But some of us, we follow the politics for very long to know how these politicians behave. They can do 60 and have a lot of presidential staffers who, in most cases, take equal salary like the deputy and then the ministers. So then we come back to the same thing. So for me,
special advisors,
and they all take the same pay, they have equal ranking as deputy ministers and ministers. Then we come back to the same thing. That's what is going to happen. There's no way the followers of NDC are not going to put pressure on him to give them appointments. It's not going to happen unless we as a country decide. So, at times we follow this politics for too long that we know the in and out of all these rhetoric that at times you don't want to even analyze it. You just want to say. And in that sense, I think you enter into a moment of pessimism, but that is the reality, and that's what is going to happen. 60 is doable, but the nature of our politics will never allow him to do 60 and put it on record.
Okay. So
put a lot of staffers and special advisors and special assistants, and it will hit over the same year.
Yeah. And what do you think? Do you think it's doable? I mean, I guess definitely we can't deny the fact that it's a very laudable idea. We've complained far too many times that we have too many members of the executive. And so, but what is the practicality? Is it something that is doable by any president?
So, I become happy when I think that Baumia will lose. But when I think about what is awaiting the next president, I feel sad for Mahama, right? Because we are getting to a point where it's going to be difficult even for the next government coming in. And a sensible government should reduce expenditure. And so I feel Mahama knows that that's what he would need to do. And if you look at his communications, he's almost like, I'm not going to promise too much. The theme of his campaign this time is, I'm not going to promise too much, because he knows that if he promises too much, he will not be able to deliver. So I believe it's something that he actually thinks that is one of the ways forward, at least for the next 4 years, right? To be able to reduce the number of ministers and stuff like that. So I think he would do it. He would do it this time not because the party people wouldn't be on him, but he would do it because he actually believed that's the way to go to save, to save some money and try and do the right thing. So I feel this time he will be forced to actually do it, and not he'll be forced by the financial pressures the country is facing, And so maybe it's possible. But I agree with Oreku. It becomes difficult. People will be on you, and sometimes they give in. But maybe this time, because of everything that's happening, maybe it will actually be an excuse for him to tell his party people, let me go with a fewer number this time. And of course, there are other things that he can use to kind of, settle, or he can give to his party people. But I feel he actually means it when he says that he will keep it at 60.
Yeah. Okay. So for me, my opinion is that it's going to be difficult, but it's doable. And I think the difficulty is structural. Again, I am of the opinion that Ghana's political structure was not properly put together. And I think that we have to go back to the fundamental principles of how a democratically functioning country is supposed to work. The pieces have to fit in like a jigsaw puzzle. You can't put them together haphazardly. And that's exactly what we did with Ghana. And now, why I feel that this is going to be a challenge, one of the biggest challenge is the requirement that a majority of ministers have to be appointed from parliament. That is one of the biggest challenge. So now you have a lot of potential members of the executive who have a lot of political capital. They have constituencies with people backing them, and people are expecting that once their party is in power, now is the time for them to, be elevated, and it comes with certain benefits. So those pressures exist. So once that structure exists, it's going to be very difficult for any party to come into power and say, I'm limiting my ministers to only 60, just because of the sheer amount of pressure and the power that is associated with that pressure. So there are a lot of people who go to parliament who are not interested in doing the work of parliament. I would say about 70% of the people who are in parliament are not interested in parliamentary work. Parliamentarians in Ghana, I always say they're like gamblers. Everybody thinks that they can win the lottery, and the lottery is becoming a minister once your party is in power. That is what has motivated a lot of people to go into parliament. And we personally know people that, look, if you look at their lifestyle, you just know that this person has no business in parliament. He is not interested. So for me, until and this idea of amending, sort of piecemeal amendment of our constitution, I don't agree with it. Again, I want us to go back to the very fundamentals and put it all together, and that all the pieces will work together. But if it is just piecemeal, oh, this is the thing that is wrong with our constitution, and go and amend it, then it's going to be a continuous thing. So, but that's one of the biggest problems that we have. It has built a clientele type of politics in our country. That's why people are paying ridiculous sums of money to go to parliament. If you take the salary, and the unfortunate thing is that it's not all of them that get the opportunity. So there are people who have spent so much money and gone to parliament, and in the long run have lost, but they were essentially gambling. So that is one of that is my biggest reason for thinking that what President Mahama is proposing here might be difficult. And as Oreku said, it might lead to the creation of positions that may not necessarily come with the title of a minister, but it will be drawing the same amount of resources from our coffers as a ministerial appointment would. So I think if Mahama comes into power, which I hope for, he needs to create a team that would rethink the political system that we are practicing. People who are very knowledgeable on these issues, people who understand political philosophy and how these things work, not the lawyers, essentially, because some of them are the creation of our problems, but people who understand these things to work the whole institution from the ground up. And that way, if he builds such a system, because if an executive has the freedom, right, you make if it's a law that members of parliament cannot be part of the executive, which first of all is also an issue of separation, or it brings about separation of powers problem, where you have an executive and legislature merged together. So that's another problem. If we divorce the two, now any executive coming into power does not have that pressure. So he can decide to go with 25 ministers. Members of parliament are not included. So it kind of takes off the pressure from a government. So, but anyway, That is my position on this. But we wait to see. It requires a significant amount of political will to pull this off. And hopefully Mahama has it and he'll be able to do it. But there are going to be a very large number of unhappy people. That we can be sure of. Right.
Maybe, in my mind,
yeah,
if because he's not going to go into politics again to campaign. So if he really wants to do it and he has the government, the people at heart and say, hey, I'm not coming back to you again. So that's the advantage he has.
Yes.
I'm not coming back to you again. I will never need you politically again. I'm going to call your bluff and do it. But could you imagine Mahama not appointing Haruna Idris? You remember 8 years ago or so, Haruna was the last. His name was not mentioned. And his group, some groups, I'm not saying he, but some groups to like him went to attack the NDC office because they were scared their main man will not get a position. So that those are the challenges.
Yeah, those are the challenges. Yes, but well, yeah, for me, I would say he should use that lack of pressure or the absence of pressure, given the fact that this is final term, to build the institution. It's an institution that is not catering to any existing government, but that would address some of the problems for succeeding governments, right? Because sometimes the will is not there because you are the incumbent and there are certain loopholes that you are benefiting from, and so you don't want to fill them up. But then he doesn't have that pressure, and I think he should use that opportunity to restructure the system in a way that would make it robust, and then a succeeding government would not be left with that burden of having to, bow to the will of, the political elite in their party. So, but again, let's move on to the next issue. Our next topic had to do with the unveiling of the vice presidential nominee of the MPP, Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh. We discussed the announcement last week, but then he was outdoored. He visited the Asante Hene. I think he's a member of the royal family, and so the MPP thought it wise or thought it respectful to go and introduce him to the Asante Hene, and that happened. And subsequently, he had the opportunity to address members of his party, and he made comments that he has been reproached across the board for. We will listen to those. And last week we talked about his nomination and the baggage of arrogance that he's been tagged with. So let's listen to what he said. Let's listen to the Asante Hene first, listen to his comments, because he is taking all the oxygen in the media space all week with respect to these comments. We'll listen to the comments and then we'll have a conversation about them.
Eba ye yasin kropo bi se wani nso ade mesi akwalai metiti no ofie ma hunu sa de enti na ne ye kasa eba de makasa ache no wode metunufo nanzo ma men kan chao emma Dr. Bawumia nnu no ho se wo yi wo emma ne nnu no ho se wo yi wo o kwaya no kwaya sumpa ne di na chi na de obekire wo na wo so ye pa ho brase kodi akire na ye ne kama mame.
Okay, so these comments by the Asante Hene are informed by the widespread assertion that Matthew Opoku Prempeh is a very arrogant person. Throughout last week, in all the media houses in Ghana, that was the subject matter, that the guy is arrogant. And so when he went before the Asante Hene, he admonished him, said he had advised him indoors, and also he did so publicly, asking him to be essentially obedient to his superior in the person of Bawumia, and that he shouldn't make Bawumia regret for selecting him as the running mate. And as we know in Ghana, the tag of arrogance is not a good thing. when you observe the people that have been elected to the position of president in Ghana, they are people who are mostly regarded as humble, with the exception of the current president. But the circumstances surrounding his election are unique, and we can talk about those later. But if you look at it from maybe Rawlings, not quite, but we know how he came into power, but he wasn't described as arrogant either. You look at Kufuor across the board, nobody can ever say Kufuor was an arrogant person. And then he was succeeded by Atamels, who had the nickname of Asumdwehene, who is a very unifying character, right? Humble. In fact, his humility was a pleasant thing to watch. And so then Mahama is also another person who is described as humble. Baumia has never had the tag of arrogance, irrespective of his shortcomings in other areas, right? Then comes Mighty Opoko Pempe. And this tag is all over the place. Everyone is talking about it. So now, what emphasized it is these comments.
President but to be sarcastic, we say a free state Ghana from 1957. Ebekane, president be our Ghana Chen and Adu Dakwakufwan. Messi a free 1957. Bekane, one form of Kwame Nkrumah, one form of Obia, the one the Mampania, one book Ghana who buy, and the Ghana Konanim, Chen and Adu Dankwa Akufuado.
Okay, so these were the comments that made a lot of people outrageous. It made people enraged with Mighty Opoko Pempe, and others have described it as a reinforcement of the perception of arrogance. So, let's begin with you. Well, what is your take on? But again, he actually doubled down. Let me actually play this video. He doubled down. That was not it.
Politicians, the amount of them, in feel another don't come forward. Not kind of cheap. I'm a bit near our young. Empo, the Bokaya, they are doing response. This is Ghana, 1957, from Vancouver. Ebekane, a Belgian or why is not saying another
Okay, so this was in the eastern region that he made these comments. I think this was 2 days after.
Better than Nkrumah's government.
But this time,
His Excellency Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo has delivered the free SHS. His government is better than Nkrumah's government.
But this time.
Okay, so this was in 2020, I think, that he made these comments. So, I mean, he has a track record of attacking Nkrumah's government. And it makes one wonder why, I mean, you're competing with an NDC government, and why would you attack a government that was deposed how many years ago? 1966 to now. That's over 50 years ago or so. I mean, I think the guy, I mean, Napo wasn't even born when Nkrumah was deposed. So, I mean, so Nick, how about it? What's your take?
Well, my first point is I want to know the political history of unveiling of candidates, whether they doing it at the palace is the right thing to do. I don't know whether it's the right thing. I feel the chiefs should stay away from politics, but we know Menchia is synonymous to the NPP, and that is what that is the game plan for this election, right? Trying to tell people don't look at all the bad policies, don't look at how bad your life is actually. Just look at the fact that we are presenting somebody who is from your Mieoba, who is your son, so vote for me. And that's the kind of politics they want to play, and that is wrong. First of all, you cannot even compare Akufo-Addo to a champion. A champion was the Fautu Bejikov, right? You cannot compare Akufo-Addo to him. Nkrumah knew how to build a nation. Look at his investments. And again, when Nkrumah was our leader, our president, the world was in a cold war, so government didn't really trust each other. This guy knew how to build a nation. Look at the investments he made with Akosombo, thinking far ahead of the the age he was. At that time, he invested in atomic, so that we can use atomic energy to generate energy.
Yeah.
This is the guy who is far ahead of his time. Temamoto Way has given Ghana more money even than our cocoa. This is a guy who is far ahead of his time. What he tried to do when he came, the economy in Ghana, and I'm talking about Nkrumah, was more dependent on cocoa and some gold. He tried to diversify the economy. You think it's easy during that time when you're fighting both internal people and also external forces? You know, when they overthrew him, this guy built a lot of companies, factories. They tried to burn some of these factories down because it was from Nkrumah. One important thing that Nkrumah did for Ghana is the fact that he tried to make Ghana more integrated. People, I'm in Accra, I can go to school in Cape Coast. That idea where Ghanaians can go to school in different regions is why Ghana is not like other African countries. We don't fight each other because we know each other, we love each other, and that is the idea of a thinking president. These guys don't know anything. You Napo, what have you done? What has Akufo-Addo? His policies will not even after he's gone. His policies, nobody will remember his policy 2 years from now. This is a guy whose policies, whose investment I'm even benefiting. And today you want to compare him to Akufo-Addo. Akufo-Addo is the worst president we've had in the history of this country. Now, when when you see comments like this, you wonder whether this guy is actually as intelligent as he is, and
as they claim
he claims to be. Because aside what he did, what Nkrumah did for Ghana, he is the only African president to be able to fight to put to weave Africa together. Now, we all say we want our African countries to move forward. Do you think we can do that by being individualistic? No. The solution is to come together as one people. And that is the only way. And he was the only president who had the cojones to do that. And today you have people like Napo talking nonsense. That guy that he don't know anything, and he's going to, because of him, Baumia will lose. And next time when he decide, they will try and take the party from Baumia. And I hope MPP makes a mistake and make him a presidential candidate. They'll be in opposition for more than 20 years.
Okay. All right. So Oreku, he asked an interesting question with respect to the decision to unveil him at the palace of the Otumfuo.
I don't think he was unveiled in the palace.
I mean, anyway, but that's
one of the rally didn't happen there.
No, but they went to the
Otumfuo's palace. They did some in Menchia, the palace.
What I'm saying is that there were two events.
Yes.
They introduced him to Menchia, like all politicians go and introduce themselves.
But that was the first place of unveiling.
No, what I'm saying is that they introduced, but the rally where he made those things.
No, yes, the rally was.
And so those are neat, and I'm just trying to explain.
Yeah.
It didn't happen the same time.
Yes.
It's like John Mahama goes to Menchia all the time. So this has nothing to do with Menchia. Let's stick with the politics and let's leave Menchia. But it has nothing to do with Menchia.
But it had the appearance that the initial unveiling or his initial outdooring to the public was done before the Otumfuo, and it
Yes,
appeared
so,
to have a certain level of significance just beyond any other political outdooring, so to speak.
oh
right?
yeah,
The
because of the
MPP,
statement
the
he made.
NDC, the NDC did their outdooring of their running mate, and they held, I think, was it a conference or whatever you want to call it at UPSA, where she gave a speech. In this particular case, there was a Deba, and
in Menchia, because he's
yes.
the Napo is the MP for Menchia.
Okay.
So,
okay, yeah. So that's the clarification I wanted you to give. Yes.
Napo is the MP for Menchia.
Okay.
So but the Menchia is different. We have the Menchia Township and the Palace.
Yes.
But normally when we say, it's like the way we say Washington. We mean the Washington as a capital and Washington as a White House is different.
Yes.
So what I'm saying is that Menchia as a palace
was
not there when he made those comments. It didn't.
No.
Those comments didn't happen at the end of the Chiefs. It was their own rally, and they made their own comments, and so those are totally two different things.
Okay.
I think we have to distinguish that.
Okay, but I think my question here was with respect to what's the wisdom in actually picking this type of fight? You know, especially being a nominee of a major party seeking political office. Do you think it was a smart thing to do? And also the fact that he went and doubled down in the Western region.
I mean, he has apologized too. I think you should have added it to it.
Yeah, okay. Yes,
he has apologized.
Yes.
So, but the fact that he has apologized means that he reflects and realizes that the statement he made.
I'm sorry. How can you apologize for something you've said it multiple times? It doesn't mean you're sorry. It means you just don't want it to affect your political whatever. But that statement, as idiotic as it sounds, he's repeated it a number of times. So it's not an apology.
No, I agree with you. Me. Politically, it's an apology. I mean, we are doing political discourse, political analysis, so we can add it to it that he has apologized. But I agree with you. The sincerity might not be there, or it might affect his political calculations. But he saying what he said, in most cases, I think it reflects his own understanding and his own perspective about things. And I think most of the LPP people have even checked him out and say, hey, these things you're saying is dangerous, and it might not bring us the fortunes that we want. Factually, he's wrong. I don't think Akufo-Addo's government is comparable to Nkrumah's government. I even don't think Akufo-Addo can compete with John Kufuor. I think John Kufuor's government is the best in the Fourth Republic, followed by John Rawlings, from my own analysis as a political scientist. So Akufo-Addo doesn't even come close to John Kufuor's government. So factually, he's wrong. I think people can debate Napo with facts and prove him wrong. And in some of these facts, they are so obvious that you don't have to debate strongly. What I don't like about is the level of intolerance and insult that has actually followed this whole commentary. If you go social media, people are finding different ways to drag in a whole lot of things. And to me, that is also not necessary. It's not helpful for our political discourse and civility, in the sense that Napo has made a statement. He has said it before, like the records indicate, and nobody said anything about it. Nobody checked him up. It's just because now he said it on a political platform and we are in a political season. In a competitive arena, you can expect that people are going to make factually inaccurate statements, and this is an example. Nkrumah is far ahead of any political leader that has ever governed our country. It doesn't make Nkrumah that the best of all time in the world, but for the kind of politicians we've had, he is better than all of them. Kind of leaders we've had, he's better than all of them in terms of development, in terms of record. But it also doesn't mean that we cannot critique Nkrumah. And that is what I don't like.
Yeah, but this is not a question of critiquing Nkrumah. I think
no, that's not what I'm saying. Yeah, okay, let me finish. So that's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that people can mention Nkrumah's name. People can talk about Nkrumah if they want. If they make inaccurate statement, we can also draw their attention and battle them out with the facts. And that's the same thing some people have done, and that's why Nyapo is reacting. It might not be sincere, and we don't need sincerity in this case. The fact speaks to the issue that It's not even close contest between Nkrumah and Nana Addo.
Okay.
Napo is not even close contest between Kufuor. And that's why even in the apology letter, he brought in Kufuor's name, that he is even sorry for saying something like that in comparison to Kufuor. So for me, I don't want to place so much premium on that statement. If there's another platform to us to talk about Nkrumah's government,
yes,
and why, and I've made it point to you. I don't want to say that for now, but I have my own critique.
No, I mean, yeah, we are, of course. Yeah.
I think a lot of the questions that Ghana you raised this morning about
structure,
the culture, the structure, the development of our country, how to develop a country. It started with Nkrumah. Compare Nkrumah to the Botswana guy, compare Nkrumah to Lee Kuan Yew, compare Nkrumah to strategic way of developing a country, then we can talk about. But Nkrumah has no equal when it comes to Ghana.
I mean, we definitely cannot compare Nkrumah to anybody on the African continent. But with the people that like Lee Kuan Yew and all these other Malaysia and other countries, we can do that, right? But
Ghana, you can compare Nkrumah to some people in the African.
I mean, who?
You know,
let's not let. Okay, let's reserve.
I mean, this is a different debate, but you can do that.
Yes.
You can do that.
Okay,
we can really do that. Really, in terms of development, you can take Botswana out and really look at what the first leader of Botswana did. You can take Mauritius out and look at the first leader of Mauritius.
Let's save that conversation. I disagree, but we'll save that conversation for another day.
Mandela, no, I disagree with people comparing Nkrumah to Mandela. Nkrumah was way ahead of Mandela.
Yes.
Mandela is synonymous with Nkrumah in the sense that it was more of the liberation. Mandela couldn't tackle the economic issues and stuff.
We are thinking of a platform where we have more an African approach to talking about politics, and so these conversations will come there. But Zita, I mean, the verdict is already clear, right? The jury has returned with the verdict, and it's not even close. And Erico has already made that point. Several people have made a point on social media. It was very nonsensical for him to bring that up. But what is his? I mean, I want you to address the issue of his political acumen, right? Is it somebody who has been selected as a running mate to add something to a ticket? If you sit back and you are developing your strategy as to how you're going to approach this campaign, would that be your pioneering issue to bring up?
Yeah.
So I want us to really analyze Napo as somebody who can add something to the ticket. Is it wise for him to approach politics in this way?
I mean, again, I think that it's over enthusiasm. You've been named as, vice president, you're back in your constituency. And, he played the ethnicity card or tribal card. Oh, idea will fear yet. Vote for me because I am part of you and all that. And so it's the over enthusiasm for him to make this huge political blunder. But again, it became a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? So going forward, he's going to watch himself and watch his utterances. It's going to be self-governmentality. He's going to govern himself mentally in terms of how he navigates in the political space. For me, like I have maintained and said, we cannot delineate ethnicity or tribe from Ghana's politics. So that is what he's adding in terms of somebody that can appeal to the Ashanti base. They believe he has it. And in as much as a lot of people have come out to condemn him, many people have also come out to support his statement in that regard. So this is just Ghana's politics at play. We cannot separate ethnicity or ethnic group allegiance or ethnic group sentiment or tribal sentiment from our politics. We cannot do that. So he was chosen for that, to represent that base that they have, because Baumia doesn't represent the Ashanti base. He represents a Northern base. And like I said, his popularity in their base is not, he doesn't have that popularity in the MPP's stronghold. And so he was a strategic selection. He was enthusiastic. he made a comment that became a self-fulfilling prophecy. We said this is who you are, and you have proven it by making a reckless comment. We see how he's going to redeem himself. I mean, we have about 5 months to Ghana's election, and so campaigning is going to intensify. So we are all watching to see what he will really add beyond the fact that he is, you know, an Ashanti linked to the royal family in some sense. We will see what else he brings to the table, and that is going to be what some of us will be watching. What else would he bring to the table besides appealing to MPP's strong base as an Ashanti, and of course a fine gentleman who of course have been tagged as arrogant and decided to fall into the pit that have been dug for him. Interesting days ahead, we will be watching. But yeah, he became a self-fulfilling prophecy this week, but there are some people who are still solidly behind him and said he said the fact. So that says Ghana for you. But to land my ship, I always say this, that I want to honor every African leader that put himself on the line. Again, our heroes have to die for us to know who they are and the sacrifices they put in. So I hope that someday, 50 years from now, 100 years from now, if Napo is no more, I hope he is remembered for something positive. Because Nkrumah is not a perfect man, but in terms of ideology, in terms of, yes, and his ideas might have been overly ambitious, and looking at, you know, his Pan-Africanist ideas and the vision to create an African unity and African union, it might have been overly ambitious and idealistic, but he's done his bit. And many years, we are now looking back and saying, he's one of the best presidents we have and one of the best leaders Africa has ever had. So I hope that Napo understands that he is carving out his own trajectory, and 50 years or 100 years from now, what will posterity say about him? That is important. We should not be celebrating our heroes when they are gone. But again, to lead Africans and to do anything good for Africans, it takes a certain level of just transcending the times to do that. And so I just want to land on this note. We honor all our true leaders, the Thomas Sankaras, the Patrice Lumumbas, the Nkrumahs, and the many more who sacrificed, that today we can look back and say, yes, they did honorable, even though they're human beings and they have their own flaws.
Okay. All right. I mean, there are some people who are of the opinion that Napo is innately arrogant, and that no amount of coaching at this point in his life can really, you know, take that evil out of him, and that he is bound to repeat this same sin in the course of the campaign. But what I have to say,
you're obsessed with the word arrogant.
It's not me. I mean, look, we are simply
use it 100 times.
No, but
I don't want politics of perception.
No. Hold on. No,
our analysis.
But no, let me make a point, because this question of arrogance is basically related to Napo, and he sucked the energy out of the media space the entire week. Everybody talked about this guy the entire week with respect to these comments that he made in Kumasi, and doubled down in the Western region, and then came out with an apology the entire week. So if we are using that term here, it's not coming from us.
What about if he was ignorant, not arrogant?
What
about if he's just ignorant?
No, but it's people.
No, what I'm saying is that arrogance is so perceptible that let's forget about it.
It's a real thing. Whether it's perceptible, no. We will talk about that.
So I have a question for
yes.
Again, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So when they're asking about the doomsaw, and he asks people to bring their own timetable, is that one to being ignorant or arrogant?
No, I think Agana asked me last time. So I don't normally like label, like in my nature, I don't like labeling people, especially people I don't know. I don't care whether he's arrogant or not. I can see that he's ignorant, and I told you that I don't think he can rekindle the base. When you asked me, even before he made this statement. Yeah. I don't see him as somebody who really, I see him more of the normal buga type. I don't know the English word for that. Yeah. The kind of politics we do. And some of us, we study this political landscape for a very long time. I used to follow news back and forth, listening to everything. We have traits of Napo all over. This guy, Mutala, He's like Napo in the way he talks, but he can be a nice guy if you approach him.
Yes.
But
no, interpersonal relations are different.
Ignorant. If you are not ignorant and you are smart and you have political acumen,
yes.
you will not make that statement because it is taken. But if you take what he said about Nkrumah out, he really didn't say any policy of substance.
No.
He just said, oh, the doom son, oh, mon friend, doom yeah, doom. Like, the guy couldn't articulate anything. Forget about the Nkrumah thing. Like, it's like Floyd Mayweather saying, I'm better than Muhammad Ali. Forget about that. But in terms of even helping the MPP articulating anything on that platform, the guy didn't articulate any.
No, I agree.
Anything. Okay. Like, so clearly. Okay. It's just that he's lucky he made a Nkrumah point. That is what NDC is focusing on. And that is why NDC is also not tactical. The guy didn't really make any point of substance on that platform. He was stuck. He was stuck. Like, he was stuck. He didn't know anything to say.
Okay. Well, yeah, we get your point. And for me, well, I was only simply relaying what somebody has said. I honestly haven't really expressed any strong opinion about his character in that sense, but this conversation is generated from what is happening in the media outlets and what is out there basically. So it's not me that is obsessed with the question of arrogance now, but I think the issue speaks to the larger lack of talent in the MPP in current times, because if this was 2007, I think NPP would have come up with a solid candidate, irrespective of the region.
I actually don't think NPP lacks talent. I think they do have talent. I feel the Akufo-Addo wanted to consolidate his power, so he was sidelining certain people.
Yeah.
To me, in my opinion, I feel Alan would actually be a good candidate. He's a nice person, but what I can't figure out from Alan is what is he a fighter? He should have the fight that he's fighting now. He should have started that fight way longer
within the MPP.
It's too late. I don't know why he got out of.
I agree with you.
I'm like, bro, what?
He should have stayed in there and
and fight.
Yes.
Going out is not going to
happen.
Not tactical.
Yes.
But I do feel they still have talent, but they are the wrong things.
I understand what Ghana is saying. The politics in Ghana now is no longer interesting. To be frank with you. And that is why when I come, of course, I have my leaning. I like MPP. But I've stopped following politics a little bit. So at times I'll call Ghana and say, hey, what's the issue? Explain to me. It's no longer interesting, to be frank with you. So a lot of people have really sat back. So the few that are at the front line, within that space, then there's a lack of talent.
And I'm like, this guy, Woon to me is speaking on behalf of MPP. I'm like, wow.
No,
this guy.
Okay, that's a perfect example. Now you know
speaking for MPP.
Exactly. You know how MPP's tradition is, right? It started from the NLM, and the leader was Bafo Osei Akoto. This was a highly respected man in Ashanti region at the time, right? He was in the transport business. He was a linguist of the Ashanti Hene and all that. This is very highly respected. And to think that Woon to me is his 2024 co-equal is an insult to the MPP and to Ghana's politics. And so it speaks to the continuous, diminishment of talent within the ranks of, I would say MPP in the Ashanti region, for instance. Because, look, in my opinion, they wanted to avoid Napo, but they looked and just couldn't find anybody an alternative to him.
Oh no, they could have gone for Aduchum. Aduchum is a little bit better. They could have gone for Aduchum, but Aduchum, they don't. Aduchum is not Kumasi.
It's not.
Aduchum will not. But Aduchum could have served Bawumia better. It's more. He understands how to serve.
Yeah.
But they think in their own calculation, we need somebody to energize the base. I don't think it's ethnicity, but they need somebody to energize the base.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he can energize the base.
Yeah, but the point I'm making is that they could have found they didn't have a candidate that had those set of complements, right? He had that maybe potential ability to energize the base, but he came with a significant amount of baggage. But in the past, you could have somebody who can bring out the base, but also they do not have any character flaws that may come in the way, right? And that is essentially speaking to the lack of talent that I've talked about. If you look within Ashanti region, members of parliament, or even those who are in frontline politics now, it's very difficult to really identify somebody who can measure up to the guys that were in the Kufuor administration. And I don't know, they may have to recruit, because if Wontumi is your chairman, of course you can expect talent to diminish in your party, right? But anyway, I think we are right on 2 hours, and we need to draw the curtains on our show. I think
what's up? No, Zita said I used the fallacy.
Well, our time.
I'm gonna thank you for the opportunity, Nee. It's always amazing seeing you, and it's been a wonderful time.
So you will not say anything about me?
You say hi to Oreku.
Zita, you need to do a cookout and invite her.
No, they are far away from each other. They are in different states.
So Zita,
I don't deal with people who disrespect that. And I just land on this note. If you are claiming that energizing the base is not about ethnicity, it doesn't make sense, because the base is an ethnic, it's all about ethnicity. And so if you say, oh, energizing the base is not about ethnicity, it is about ethnicities, because he's an Ashanti, and that is why he was chosen. And he's meant to complement the lack of fire that Baumia doesn't have. Educhum is calm. So calm, Baumia, it won't work. You always, and if I'm gonna remember, I said this, that every time the pickings are always complementary. Rollins had a fire, chose Mills, who is calmer. Mahama, Nanado chose Baumia, somebody that, you choose a vice that you can have that leverage. That even people are saying that he's not Baumia's choice, because when your vice have that, whatever, grandiose presence, or however they call it, arrogance, and you are calmer and you are the vice, it's counter that. So he was chosen. It's ethnic. Let us stop tiptoeing around the ethnicity debate. I did a lot of screenshots for you. I'm gonna send it to you. I did a lot of screenshots and a lot of screen recordings of live streams that were going on TikTok with over 200 people, and I was taking a screenshot of all the comments, ethnicity comments. So it's been amazing. Nee, you're in Carolina, North Carolina or South Carolina? Not usually. I'm in America for the summer, but who knows, I might be there soon.
Yeah, let me know when you drop.
Oh yeah, Virginia. So who knows, I might take a trip down to your place, and then who knows, the next time it will be me in his house, and we are streaming from one location.
Yes.
All right, well, our time is up.
I don't think your panelists want me on your platform again, so I'm not coming.
No, you can't do
that. You stated your views, I've stated my views. That's all.
Who is the kid? You have to come.
Yeah.
Your views, I've stated my views. There is no issue.
No, we like the balance. So
yeah, there's no issue. Of course, I'm only here to support a friend. Yeah. My man is doing a good job. Agada is doing a great job. He tells me he needs a balance. I'm here to provide that balance. Nothing else, no more, no talk.
All right, guys. Okay, so let's meet again next week. Okay. All right, to our viewers, we thank you a lot for being with us this afternoon, and then we hope that you continue to join us. Right, bye.
Na